guys, my name is Juan and I talk about books here on YouTube usually about once a week. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you have watched my videos before, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. In my videos, I talk about books, usually literary fiction or classics. You can check out my video uploads and my playlists if you're interested in watching any past videos. And if you want to keep up with my content, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. In today's episode, I am going to do a book haul. So I am going to show you and speak about some books that I have been accumulating recently but have not read yet. You will find a list of all the books with links to an online store that offers worldwide free delivery in the description box for this video. And if you buy any books from my links, you will be supporting my channel because I will receive a small commission for every book you buy. But it won't cost you anything extra. Also, I thought that some of you might want to send me books, so I am now sharing my wish list with you all in every video. If you check out the description box for this video and every other video, you will find my two wish lists, one from Amazon and one from the book depository. So if you like to send me a book, all you need to do is go on one of my wish lists, find a book that you'd like me to have and buy it for me. And of course, I will read and review all the books I'll get sent from my wish lists. However, if the book you'd like me to send me is not on either of my wish lists, you can always contact me by email or through social media, and all the links are here on my channel, and we will find a way that you can send me whichever book you like me to read. So don't be shy and feel free to contact me. I wanted to do this whole introduction because all the books in today's video were bought by me. A couple of you have sent me books in the past, that's true, but not very recently. And anyway, what I wanted to say is that I bought some of the books I will talk about in a minute after watching somebody else's video. And I think that is so great. I think it is amazing that so many smart people talk passionately about the books they read and make recommendations for free here on YouTube. I know that I do that too, of course, but I wouldn't if I hadn't spent a lot of time watching bookish videos on YouTube before I decided to start my own channel. Sadly, I don't have a lot of time to watch many videos anymore because, making my own videos does take a lot of time. But every so often, I will watch a video or two from one of my favorite creators or from someone that I had never heard of before, and I always marvel at how creative and articulate people can be on this platform. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get into the book haul. And the first book I have is The Stories of John Cheever, which is a short story collection by this American writer and was first published in 1978. John Cheever is hailed as one of the best short story writers in America, and this book contains some of his best and most famous short stories. I have read some of them already. The first ones that come to mind are always, of course, The Swimmer and The Enormous Radio. I had read those stories and probably others before I bought this book though, but the main reason I have not read more stories from this edition is that I don't like it. It is a US paperback edition, which means that it is flexible and easy to handle, no problems there at all, but this book contains many stories, I think a total of 61 short stories, and as you can see the book is not very large at all, and that means that the print is tiny. Okay, I will admit that I prefer novels to short stories. However, I do admire well-crafted stories. I think short stories must be very hard to write, but I prefer reading longer fiction. I don't know why that is, but that is how it is. However, I have read some great short stories and I would like to read more, but a book this small with so many stories in it is not easy to read, and it kind of overwhelms me, which is why it has been gathering dust on my bookshelf for a while. But I am sure that The Stories of John Cheever is worth reading. So let me read to you this bit from the preface, which is reproduced on the back of this edition. So these stories seem at times to be stories of a long-lost world where the city of New York was still filled with a river light, when you heard the Benny Goodman quartets from a radio in the corner stationery store, and when almost everybody wore a hat. Here is the last of that generation of chain smokers who woke the world in the morning with their coffin, who used to get stoned at cocktail parties and perform obsolete dance steps like the Cleveland Chicken, sail for Europe on ships, who were truly nostalgic for love and happiness, and whose gods were as ancient as yours and mine, whoever you are. Fantastic stuff. Okay, next I have Glamorama by Bret Easton Ellis. Bret Easton Ellis is, of course, a famous contemporary American writer, and I love his debut novel, Less Than Zero, so much that I have read it at least twice. I also read and enjoyed American Psycho, which I think is probably his most famous novel, so I thought I would like to read this too, which is a satire of 1990s celebrity culture, and that is why I bought this book. I tried reading it, but for whatever reason I couldn't get into it. When that happens, which is actually not very often, for me, I usually put the book aside and pick up, and pick it up at a day-to-day. And I think Glamorama has been sitting on my shelf for more than a year now. But let me read you the back in case you have not read it and would like to see what you might encounter if you did. So, the center of the world, 1990s Manhattan. Victor Ward, a model with perfect abs and all the right friends, is seen and photographed everywhere, even in places he hasn't been and with people he doesn't know. He's living with one beautiful model and having an affair with another on the eve of opening the trendiest nightclub in New York history. And now it's time to move to the next stage, but the future he gets is not the one he had in mind. So, how does that sound to you? Would you read this novel? I think I would. Okay, the next book I have is funny because it is the second time I mention it in a book haul, and I don't make this kind of video very often. If you're an attentive and loyal viewer of my channel, you might remember that about a year and a half ago, I made my last book haul, which was all about Thomas Mann. It was right at the beginning of our lockdown here in the Canary Islands, so what happened is that I had ordered a bunch of books by Thomas Mann that got delivered on the first week of lockdown. And that was such a strange experience, that I talked about that in that video. Anyway, since then I have read all the books by Thomas Mann that I ordered except for this one, Buddenbrooks, which was Thomas Mann's first novel and was first published in Germany in 1901. I own this edition by Vintage, translated by H.T. Lowe Porter, and I really want to read it since I am such a big fan of Death in Venice and also enjoyed reading The Magic Mountain. This is a big novel. It's a big book, but I like big books that I can sink my teeth into. So let's see. The Buddenbrook clan is everything you'd expect of a 19th century German merchant family. Wealthy, esteemed, established. 4 generations later, a tide of 20th century modernism has gradually disintegrated the bourgeois values on which the Buddenbrooks built their success. In this Mann's first novel, his astounding semi-autobiographical family epic, he portrays the transition of genteel Germanic stability to a very modern uncertainty. This sounds fascinating, so I really don't have an excuse. So, I hope I can fit this novel into my reading plans soon, maybe before the end of the year, maybe early next year. We'll see. Okay, my next novel was a total impulse buy. I saw this edition of The Man Who Loved Children by the Australian author Christina Stead on someone else's video once, probably a few years ago now. And I am sorry because I cannot remember whose video it was, but I just loved the cover. I mean, it is a Norman Rockwell painting, but it's so rare for me to buy a book like that because I hardly even look at covers. I mean, most of the books I currently own are ebooks anyway, but there was something about this book that made me buy it. Perhaps it wasn't the cover, but what was said about it in that video I watched. Either way, I know next to nothing about this novel from 1940, so let's see what it says here. Okay, so Sam and Henny Pollitt have too many children, too little money, and too much loathing for each other. As Sam uses the children's adoration to feed his own voracious ego, Henny becomes a geyser of rage against her improvident husband. And caught in the midst of it all is Louisa, Sam's watchful 11-year-old daughter. It sounds like you need to be in the mood for this novel, so I am going to save it for a rainy day, I think. I'll let you know. Anyway, next I have this used copy of Moon Palace by Paul Auster, which someone left behind in a hotel, and because it is in a pretty decent state, I decided to keep it. I have read the New York Trilogy by Paul Auster, and I remember, I even studied that book at university, and I know that I have spoken about it here before on this channel, but I haven't read anything else by him, and I would really like to. It's just never been a priority. I know I'll get to this novel at some point, but I might also read some of his other books first. I just don't know. Again, I know pretty much nothing about this novel, so let me read what it says about it here. So, spanning 3 generations, Moon Palace is the story of Marcus Stanley Fogg and his quest for identity in the modern world. Moving from the concrete canyons of Manhattan to the cruelly beautiful landscape of the American West, it is a meditation on and re-examination of America, art and the self by one of America's foremost authors. That's pretty interesting, actually. You know, perhaps I'll get to it sooner than I thought. But what do you think? You know, you can let me know in the comment section down below if you have read any of the books, any of these books. And if you can also let me know which ones you think I should prioritize. But let's now move on to another book. And this one, I know I heard good things about from my friend Sean, the book maniac, but I just cannot remember when or what he really said about it, but it was probably quite a while ago anyway. So this is Child of Fortune by the Japanese writer Yuko Tsushima. I have read extremely little Japanese literature, just some books by Haruki Murakami and probably just Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto, I think. This is a very short novel from 1978 and is translated into English by Geraldine Harcourt. But once again, I don't know what it is about, or perhaps I have forgotten. I know that Sean liked it, and the late great English writer Angela Carter pronounced it a terrific novel. So let's see how Penguin Modern Classics sells this novel. Coco won't do what is expected of her. Defying her family's wishes, she has brought up her 11-year-old daughter alone in her apartment. And now, after a casual affair, she is unexpectedly pregnant again. What will this mean for her already troubled relationship with her daughter? As she faces the future, memories of her own childhood loss flood into her consciousness, threatening to overwhelm her. Combining the beauty and unease of a dream, this haunting novel is an unflinching portrayal of a woman's innermost fears and desires. Ooh. I quite like the sound of this, and it is so short too. Maybe, you know, I could make room for it in my reading plans for November. I wonder if I could do that. Okay, the next books I have is the Border Trilogy by the American author Cormac McCarthy. This was a failed project, or perhaps a delayed one, because I meant to read these 3 novels and make either a video review of the whole trilogy or a 3-part series in which I would devote a whole video for to each of the novels. I don't know if that will happen now, but I know that I will read these 3 novels because many years ago I read The Road by the same author and I loved it. And since then, I've been wanting to read this trilogy and his other famous novel, Blood Meridian, but somehow I just keep delaying that. Anyway, the first novel in the series is All the Pretty Horses, which I think I have read before, but I don't remember anything about it, so I might as well reread it. Anyway, it says here that John Grady Cole is the last bewildered survivor of long generations of Texas ranchers. Finding himself cut off from the only life he has ever wanted, he sets out for Mexico with his friend Lacey Rawlings. Befriending a third boy on the way, they find a country beyond their imagining, barren and beautiful, rugged yet cruelly civilized, a place where dreams are paid for in blood. All the Pretty Horses is an acknowledged masterpiece and a grand love story, a novel about childhood passing along with innocence and a vanished American age. Steeped in the wisdom that comes only from loss, it is a magnificent parable of responsibility, revenge, and survival. Okay, then comes volume 2, which is The Crossing, set on the southwestern ranches. In the years before the Second World War, The Crossing follows the fortunes of 16-year-old Billy and his younger brother Boyd. Fascinated by the elusive wolf that has been marauding his family's property, Billy captures the animal, but rather than kill it, sets out impulsively for the mountains of Mexico to return it to where it came from. When Billy comes back to his own home, he finds himself and his world irrevocably changed. His loss of innocence has come at a price, and once again the border beckons with its desolate beauty and cruel promise. And the third volume is City Cities of the Plain, that's the title. In Cities of the Plain, two men marked by the boyhood adventures of All Pretty Horses and The Crossing now stand together between their vivid pasts and uncertain futures to confront a country changing beyond recognition. In the fall of 1952, John Grady Cole and Billy Parnham are cowboys on a New Mexico ranch encroached upon from the north by the military. On the southern horizon are the mountains of Mexico, where one of the men is drawn again and again in this story of friendships and passion to a love as dangerous as it is inevitable. Please don't get me wrong, these three novels sound amazing, and Cormac McCarthy is such an important writer. I just feel like I need to be in the right mood to read these three novels. Or perhaps I don't. I just once again need to make them fit into my reading plan somehow. And so much of my reading plans for this year have focused on reading fiction from Europe that I have neglected my American authors. Obviously, I haven't made any reading plans for next year yet, but I might have to find more of a balance here. But it is too soon to think about that anyway. But talking about reading goals, one thing I wanted to do this year was read all, or at least many, of the Russian classics that everyone has heard about. I think I have done pretty well on that front, but unfortunately I didn't have time for War and Peace. I would love to read this, which is Tolstoy's masterpiece, before the end of this year, but I don't know how realistic that is. I love Anna Karenina, which I reread earlier this year and reviewed here as well. And I've also enjoyed some of Tolstoy's shorter fiction, but I need to get to this epic novel. I think most people have heard about War and Peace anyway, but if, like me, you might just have a superficial idea of what this tome is about. I own this Oxford World's Classics edition translated by Amy Mandlecker. The print is tiny and the book is physically very heavy, so I might end up reading a different edition, maybe an ebook version, but I like to have this on my shelf. But I'm also really curious to see what it says on the back, so let me read it. Okay, so Tolstoy's epic masterpiece intertwines the lives of private and public individuals during the time of the Napoleonic Wars and the French invasion of Russia. The fortunes of the Rostovs and the Bolkonskis, of Pierre, Natasha, and Andrei are intimately connected with a national history that is played out in parallel with their lives. Balls and soirees alternate with councils of war and the machinations of statesmen and generals, scenes of violent battles with everyday human passions in a work whose extraordinary imaginative power has never been surpassed. The prodigious cast of characters, both great and small, seem to act and move as if connected by threads of destiny, as the novel relentlessly questions ideas of free will, fate, and providence. Yet Tolstoy's portrayal of marital relations and scenes of domesticity is as truthful and poignant as the grand themes that underlie them. This sounds great, although I didn't need to read that to know that this was a great novel. Anyway, okay, the last book I have for you today is My Name is Red by Orhan Pamuk, the Turkish writer. I own this Spanish edition, which I found on Book Crossing, and it's my latest addition to my collection. So this novel is from 1998, so I have been hearing about it for many decades, but I remember that a friend of mine read it, and she pronounced it dull, which kind of put me off reading it. But now that I own my own copy and got it for free, I might give it a go. All I know about this novel is that it is set in the Ottoman Empire in the late 16th century, so it is a historical novel, and I am not usually crazy about that genre. But if any of you have read My Name is Red, please let me know if you think it would be my kind of book. Do you think it is worth reading? Do you think I will enjoy it? Please let me know, because I haven't got a clue. And part of me just wants to clear my reading schedule and read all these books as soon as possible. I almost want to forbid myself from reading anything else until I am done with these books, but I don't think that will work for me somehow. I'm just hoping that now that I have made this video, I will remember that I own all these great books and that they are sitting here just waiting for me to pick them up and read them. But I am now very curious, how would you deal with these books? Or generally, do you buy books that you do not read right away? Do you own a lot of books that you have not read yet? How does that make you feel? I would love to hear from you about that because I need to figure out what I'm going to do with all these books and I need your help. So please leave a comment and let's have a chat about this. Anyway, I hope that you are all doing very well and I will see you again for my next video. Take care.